Hello. In this clip from our Justia webinar, Attorney Licensure and the Impaired Professional, Lori Beston and Tracy Keplar answered some questions from the audience regarding mental health and its relation with the legal profession. If you want to see more Justia videos on law practice and legal marketing, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thank you both so much for that wonderful presentation and for being here today. We can jump into audience questions. It looks like we already have a couple, so I'll go ahead and start there. And if anyone else has them that they'd like to send in, just please click that Q&A button at the control panel at the bottom of your screen and go ahead and submit. All right. It looks like we've got a couple. The first one is, in cases where an attorney's impairment is directly linked to job-related stress, should law firms and legal organizations be held accountable for creating work environments that contribute to mental health challenges, and how can that be enforced?
I mean, go ahead. Do you want to take that, Tracy?
I mean, it goes back to the modern rules would say yes, right? We are obligated under Rule 5.1 to have reasonable efforts in place so that everyone, lawyers, supervisors, non-lawyers are complying with their obligations under the rules. And I think it really goes to a culture in the firm that we have to look at. What are we doing? How are we monitoring for work addiction? Are we taking a baseline measure of our firm and then putting in resources, training, webinars, whatever it is to help deal with those issues? One of the things that I suggest is if when you're starting this process in a firm, taking a baseline, and I don't mean biometrical data, what is your weight, height, blood pressure? I mean, questions like, do you feel comfortable talking about mental health issues in the workplace? And then you put in some training, some resources around those and measure the effect or the change that you are having. The last thing I will say about this, and I'll give it to Lori, is oftentimes it comes from the top. When we see leadership modeling behavior, when we see peers sharing their stories, saying it's okay not to be okay, it goes a long way to smashing the stigma around these issues and making everyone feel comfortable and open about talking about them, which goes hand in hand with reducing, like I said, the problems. Be proactive instead of reactive.
That's a great answer. I can almost not add anything to that except LCL in Pennsylvania. We have a very strong relationship with a very large and respected international law firm. And about right before the pandemic, I would say like 18 or 19, we started doing CLEs for this firm, almost because they wanted to introduce these topics that are never talked about in an environment. This was before the wellness pledges. Like, this was about that time. The research had come out and it was now time to start doing something. And at first, I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm sharing my story and people are going to be like, why do we have this person here? What does she have to do? She's not working in big law. And over time, they had us quarterly for programs from imposter syndrome, substance use, mental health, stress, impaired professional, you name it, we were there for it. Compassion fatigue. To the point of now they run these programs quarterly and their own people are now sharing their own stories. So what was my role? To light a fire within. And then I actually was invited to speak at their partners retreat. And as amazing as that was, obviously I almost stroked out because I was like, here are all the partners from this very respected firm. And when I speak, imposter syndrome is what I was feeling. And I got a standing ovation. And it's at their actions to change the culture of their firm lit a match within. And that continues without me. Now I don't even present there now, but I stay in touch with them and provide resources as we need them. So leading by example, I think, is a great one, Tracy.
Thank you both for that insight. And that's a great example of how that can be done. Another question that we have here is, how do you go about rebuilding trust with colleagues and clients after addressing substance abuse issues?
I'm happy to take that one. I mean, and this isn't even just professional, but even personal. By the time somebody has gone to treatment or gotten themselves together or well, people around them are pretty tired. They're tired of hearing, I'm sorry. They're tired of hearing this time will be different. And what I can say, the greatest amends you can make is time. You will not hear me say I will stay sober the rest of my life. You will hear me on occasion still apologize for things that may or may not have happened that I don't remember. But I know my greatest amends is to do the next right thing and do everything I can to use my experience to help somebody else. So I think without pointing that out, I will say I have rectified. I mean, obviously, I had the Chief Justice offer to write his first and only letter of support on behalf of my pardon. He was on the Supreme Court the entire time through my addiction, and I didn't know him, but he decided to write a letter. So I think by doing the next right thing and showing up to pay that forward, I think is the best answer that I can give on that. We all want things, to happen immediately, but I will say, and I sometimes in the program have the time to make the analogy. We don't often view, and whether you buy the disease concept or not, of substance use and mental health, it is a medical diagnosis. So if somebody had cancer, what do? They go to the oncologist, they get a treatment plan, they share it with loved ones, colleagues, people rally around them in support. And then if they're in remission, we rally about that. If somebody comes out of remission and needs to get treatment again, what do? We stand right by them and encourage them. But when it's substance use and mental health, people start to lose trust in us, and we have to start to try to keep these conversations going so people have the same empathy and compassion, and I've said to people, listen, how far away from a relapse I am? I don't care how many 19 plus years I have. I'm 1 arm's distance away from a relapse, 1 arm's distance. And what would happen if I relapse? Would every person that supported me hate me? And people just need to be empathetic and understand at the end of the day, we're all humans just walking each other home. So whether it's cancer or whether it is substance use where the person struggling does play a small role in lighting the match, or whether it's mental health, nobody asks for these things. Not one person on that poster board said, I want to be a felon or I'd like to be an inmate when I'm older. I didn't say it. I don't think anybody else in prison with me said it. So I think just having empathy, compassion, and just doing the best you can to do the next right thing and know that you're doing the best you can, because that amends really has to be to yourself first and foremost.
I think Lori's word about time is critical, not only on the front end, but on the back end. I think a lot of people who want to approach, who are caring and concerned and empathetic are very afraid. And when you do approach someone, you'd like it to be like, oh, yes. And they respond, oh, yes, I do have an issue. Let's go to treatment. That's not the way it works. There's not a ta-da. I mean, oftentimes they are angry. They are as lawyers, we are the master of spin. Oh, no, it's not me. Who's saying that about me? Well, look at Lori. She's, XYZ. And so I think not only, the timing of picking the right time to have this conversation, it may just happen, serendipitously, but also time on the back end. It will take time for the person that you reached out to, for the person in recovery. And it's just that element of it is key on the front and the back.
Well, thank you so much. I think, empathy and time, those 2 words, that makes so much sense with everything that you guys have shared today. I think we have time for one more question, so I'll go ahead and ask. The last one is, for remote work, how do licensing boards address the challenges of monitoring and addressing impairment issues in virtual professional environments?
I can't say that there is there's a legal ethics opinion or that there's a rule of professional conduct that specifically speaks to remote working or hybrid work. While there certainly are all kinds of ethics opinions out there that talk about what we need to look out for, I think one of the keys is exactly what I just said, what we need to look out for. Oftentimes with hybrid and remote work, we are working by ourselves, all we're seeing is, maybe the sequencing of a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting. We're not seeing that person in person. We're having a very difficult time measuring or deciphering, is there an issue? Is there a problem? What's different here? And so I think one of the things that Lori said earlier is really looking for deviations from the baseline. Who is this person? Who are they typically? Maybe they're always, itchy, scratchy, cranky and irritable. Maybe they're always, sort of calm as opposed to excited. You're looking for changes from that baseline. And when you can recognize those and you're keyed into those go a long way to seeing, is this person okay? Are they complying with their obligations under competence, diligence, communication? And those are the kinds of things that we monitor for.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your thoughtful answers to those questions. And thank you to everyone who submitted a question.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on law practice and legal marketing. See you in our next clip.